That would be assessment and engagement. And so over a period of time, we are going person by person, doing a survey with those individuals, asking the questions as quickly as we can to get a good snapshot of how can we end your housing crisis. The second is around service engagement and referral. This is where we are going to immediately refer somebody to available services, including shelter beds and crisis beds, and also long-term housing. That is also the second part of the strategy. And then additionally, sustainment and accountability. That's going to be really key as we're moving forward to see how do we sustain the efforts around an encampment strategy. What are the results of that encampment strategy? What is it that we have done right? Where is it that we have good resources? Where is it that we're missing resources? And then also, what is it that we could do to potentially broaden this pilot project called Guided Path and include it into other encampment strategies? I am so honored that I have been able to join the provider community who have been working with homelessness and have given their time, their talent, and their energy over many years. And two of those individuals are here with us today who have taken a pivotal leadership role around this encampment strategy. And so I'm going to hand it over to Darylyn, and then we're going to hear from Greg. And I think you're going to find some really fascinating opportunities to learn why we are doing this and the significance of the work that we're doing here at this particular time for the City of Austin.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Darylyn Cardona-Byler. I'm the Director of Adult Behavioral Health Systems for Integral Care. Integral Care, as the local mental health authority serving Travis County, exists to create a community where individuals living with mental illness, substance use conditions, and intellectual developmental disabilities have the opportunity to reach their full potential and thrive. We know that that is really difficult when you live on the streets. We have served individuals in our community for over 20 years, and this year alone, Integral Care has served over 4,000 individuals living on the streets, and that is providing substance use and mental health treatment, and we are also providing permanent supportive housing to over 560 individuals. This opportunity to join our partners in the community and to join the city in creating an opportunity to navigate individuals into housing is a great one. We are working alongside many of our partners and deploying staff through this initiative to meet individuals where they're at. And in this occasion, we are deploying our homeless outreach team to meet individuals literally outside of the arch throughout. And we have engaged approximately 100 individuals getting to know their stories. This pilot is to ensure that we know each person, their needs, and immediately wrap them with supports and move them into either shelter, treatment, or housing as is needed. As of today, we can say that approximately 16 individuals of those surveyed to this point have been accepted shelter services, and I'm also hearing very heartwarming stories from our staff who have been engaging individuals outside, and many of those individuals moving into shelter have been individuals that have been trying to be connected through our community partners for a very long time, and recognizing that they have the ability to move into housing, they're accepting to move in. And one story of one of our outreach managers, she was telling me this morning, there was a guy that she's been working for a very long time, for over 2 years. And the idea that by moving indoors and having a housing plan to move this person into housing, the person accepted to move indoors. So we are excited to partner with the community, and we're excited to partner with the city and Front Steps, and to be able to move people off the streets into housing. Greg?
Thank you, Darylyn. I'm Greg McCormick. I'm the Executive Director of Front Steps, and so we're obviously here every day, and we've seen and been keenly aware of what's going on outside. Anybody who drives by here can see that there's a concern, there's an issue here, and this is a community action of trying to look at one situation and see what we can do, pulling everything together to try and help people get into housing, get out of the situation that they're in. The situation outside is not safe for the individuals that have been staying there, and for us, it's been a concern always for the clients who are coming inside the arch. They're working until midnight or until 2 a.m. sometimes trying to come into the building, and so we're really trying to talk with the individuals outside. We're getting a by name list so that we will know exactly what someone will accept, what they won't accept, and we as a community are trying to create resources that will help them come in, help them work with us, trust us, accept the resources that we're offering. And as Darylyn mentioned, some individuals are hearing about the additional resources that we have and they're ready to come in. That's exactly what we're wanting to do. We're hoping that this is very much in line with a whole initiative throughout the city, that we want to help those that are homeless. We think that this is a first step at it. We've pulled together an incredible team of service providers who are all working together, who are all dedicating their resources to this. We're all committed to this. We want to make it work, and we believe we can.
So we'll take some questions and answers. Or we'll take some questions and answers. We'll take the questions, we'll give the answers.
So, Lori,
Yes.
considering the recent shift in your role from going full-time to consulting, how involved are you going to be in this program? Are you going to be managing this every single day? Are you going to be looking at this and checking progress? How involved will you be?
Sure, I am intimately involved into this encampment strategy, and so that was one of the other pivotal points for us to start at this point. Once we had the Housing First position program from the Arch that transitioned, along with ongoing conversations about an encampment strategy that Darylyn has actually been talking with many of our electeds with, and then with me onboarding. It was a great opportunity for all this to converge and intersect to some actual action plans. And so yes, I am co-convening with the rest of the community leaders, and there has been nothing but goodwill and partnership from all of our community providers. So I really am thankful because without them and without them prioritizing this and making their resources available, we would not be able to implement this action plan.
Based on the interactions that you've had so far and talking to the people who are living out there, how soon do you think it could be before we don't see people camping out there?
At this point, we are meeting people where they're at, and we are getting to know their stories. The hope is that within the next couple of weeks, we will have a plan, an individual plan for each individual we're meeting. As I mentioned, as of now, we have met with 100 individuals, and at the end of the week, we should have a better idea of their needs, what gaps we are able to identify, and then deploy resources from the city and multiple providers. And our goal is within a month to be able to move people indoors and appropriate services outside of the arch, so they don't have to be outside of the arch any longer.
Are those 100 people just outside of the arch?
Correct.
And is there any push for this right now because the weather's changing, and is that like what does that have to do with it?
So what I can say is that providers across the community have been ending homelessness every day. We end homelessness for each per person. I would say, what would you say? I would say we're ending, at least last month, we housed approximately 160 individuals throughout the month across our community. So this process is for us to be able to increase our capacity and move faster as a community, but it's something that we have been doing for a long time. We need to scale and coordinate, and that's what this project is, this pilot is giving us the opportunity to do.
Where are these people going, and why are more resources available now as opposed to a couple of weeks ago?
So, and I'll let Greg also line in. So, again, what we're doing is we're bringing a crisis response system that the community already has and focusing it on just one single area. And so these are all existing resources that are currently available, but we're making it a priority so that we can see where is it that we have an abundance of resources. Maybe we're over-resourced in one area and we need to provide resources in another area. But I would also say that with the pivot that the Arch has had towards being housing first is a significant we haven't done our public awareness and advocacy with all the folks who are unsheltered yet around that. And so as Darylyn described, folks who have been reluctant to come into shelter, whether it's here or another shelter, they don't want to just be in a shelter and then time out after a certain period of time. They want to know, if I'm going to a shelter, is there a housing plan? Where am I going to land? If I'm just going to be back into a state of homelessness, then why go in? And so that is the key, is that we are focused on housing and how do we stably house somebody. And so that's problem solving immediately. And so one of the great things that I've seen as I was out there, boots on the ground with the engagement and the outreach team, is they were problem solving right at that moment. What is your housing plan? How can we help? What are your barriers to being able to come inside? And I thought it was really significant, just over a short period of time of us doing outreach and assessment, that we had over a dozen individuals quickly say, I want to be sheltered. I've been unsheltered for a long period of time. This is a significant difference from what I've been hearing prior to in terms of the services and support that I give. But I think it's really important for Greg to be able to share why that pivot is important, especially since the services for the vulnerable population do exist around this area when the day center was here and other services.
Sure, thank you. And I would mention a couple of things. I think that maybe also what we're seeing is the beginning of momentum that has happened for the last couple of years. We've been talking about homelessness, almost every day, and I think that we are now starting to see some of the movement that we've been hoping to see for a while. I think this is the beginning of it. As Lori mentioned, we are changing the focus of the shelter, whereas before we were meeting an immediate need. Someone is able to come in and get their health needs met, stay inside for the night, and work with us if they chose to. Many chose not to, and so we were working with a good number of individuals where we were not solving their homelessness. And so we're changing the focus, and we're becoming a housing-focused shelter. Every time somebody comes into this shelter now, instead of asking how you're doing, we're going to be asking, what is your housing plan? What is your plan to get out of the situation, help you get back into housing? What can we do to help you? What resources do you need? And so I think that this is really just the beginning of a full shift in strategy, movement, and we're hoping resources.
Earlier you were talking about talking to them about what they would accept and what they wouldn't accept. What would they accept?
Sure. So we know that there are some barriers to individuals going into shelter. We've been aware of them, and you see behind me some storage bins that we are providing. So if someone agrees to come in from outside, one of the reasons maybe that they didn't before is because there wasn't enough storage for some of their valuable belongings, and that's why some people stay in one homeless area a lot of the times, because of all of their possessions. So we know that storage is one thing. We're also creating a system where we will allow folks to come in if they have pets. So we've known that people wouldn't come in before without and leave their pets, and so we're trying to solve for what we're hearing from people who are homeless of why they won't come in. There's varied reasons, but what we're doing is getting that feedback directly, and now we've got some resources to where we can make some adjustments to our system.
If you can't come to some sort of solution for some people, will people be forced to move out of this area around the arch, or are you going to work with them, or what does that look like?
Yeah, I'm confident that with all the resources that we have together and all the community partners, that we're going to be able to find solutions to anybody who's willing to work with us.
And how wide of a net are you casting around the arch? How far out are you going?
Yeah, I think right now the focus is on this block. This is the first of initiatives. You guys have probably heard about encampment strategies before. You go in, you really find out who you're working with, what's keeping them there, what's keeping them from accessing resources, and then you help the system become flexible enough to work with them.
So Sarah, go ahead. We've heard rumblings about possibly clearing out the camping around this building. Is that part of this strategy, and when would that be expected?
Sure, I'll take that.
Mm-hmm.
So this encampment strategy is not a bureaucratic activity to improve local statistics. This has been a long period of time. Again, even prior to me coming, I know specifically Darylyn has been talking with elected officials about an encampment strategy. Greg has been talking about, what can we do to improve what's happening outside the arch as we're pivoting to housing first. And so this really is a human issue. These are impacting real humans. And so that is our goal. Anything that came out of the training bulletins or anything that might be coming out of the ordinances is not what we're focused on. We are focused on the people that you are seeing outside today. We want to have a housing plan to them. We want to eliminate the barriers for them to get housed, and we want them healthy and housed as soon as possible.
How does this fit into the larger encampment response strategy, including acquiring hotels, using city buildings as housing projects? What's the timeline on that?
So this again is just bringing down our crisis response system and available units, right? So you need to have case management slots, you need to have low barrier housing units, and then you need to have what's going to pay for housing. So those three things need to line up for a crisis response system and housing stabilization program to work for Housing First. And so we are looking at all available opportunities, but we won't know what we actually need until we start looking at the snapshot for one. And that's going to be a good kind of litmus test of what else do we need. So if we come to find out that there's not enough low barrier shelter, then we would talk about what does that look like. If we come to find out that there's folks who are actually already case managed, but they're just waiting for an available affordable housing unit with low barriers, then we need to go find out where are there more housing units with low barriers. And so really this is going to be an opportunity to kind of test what it is that we say that we're doing as a community, and then also test where we say we're resourcing appropriately or not appropriately as a community.
So say like a month from now or 2 months from now, a lot of people have moved on to housing ideally and they are staying there. But if there are still people who refuse to move, continue to camp out there, have elaborate tents set up, is there a plan to, or would you consider ticketing them or issuing citations or fines or possibly arresting trespassing?
Sure. So
Please come to the front entrance. Stephen Taft.
as I've mentioned to media, and I think my colleagues will agree, is that we're not going to tell APD how to enforce. That is going to be up to any of their operations. We know that we have a very long-standing relationship as a provider community with Austin Police Department whenever there is engagement of the vulnerable community. And that does include a great program that you guys are familiar with HOST. I'm going to let Darylyn talk a little bit about HOST because I think it's really key that we talk about how Austin Police Department has been such a vital partner when working with our vulnerable community.
Sure. You all know about our Homeless Outreach team. It's a partnership between the Austin Police Department, EMS, Downtown Austin Community Court, and Integral Care. It's a team that has been dedicated to serving the downtown community and the community around UT as well. This team has been deployed for this initiative. They have been committed to be here around this block to engage individuals and help us along with front step case managers and outreach staff to ensure that they continue their good work. This partnership is essential because it brings together the partnerships from the Austin Police Department, EMS, who is able to address any chronic health conditions, and Integral Care, who is able to provide the assistance in engaging individuals and providing services related to mental health and substance use conditions. The team has been in existence for over 2 years at this point, with great success in making sure that individuals are connected to services and connected on the pathway to housing. I would like to echo what Lori said in terms of the relationship with the Austin Police Department. They have been gracious and they have been great partners through this process in making sure that whenever they need to enforce, they're working with the providers, with the provider community to ensure that we have the ability to assist individuals, connect them to services before they need to move forward with any enforcement. So they have been great partners through this process, and we will continue to work with them as well.
So is it the host team that's been interacting with those first 100?
The host team and our front steps case managers and our reach workers, the two teams have been working outside of the arch to collect and engage with the first 100 individuals. Yes.
Considering a lot of these people have been out there for such a long time and refused service in the past or never came in here, I'm curious what makes you guys think that this time it's actually going to work?
We know that at times it requires assertive engagement, and what we're doing this time is to ensure that individuals have a light at the end of the tunnel. And with this initiative, we are connecting individuals with the option to come indoors, and we as a community providers coming together are surging to identify the resource to help that person move into housing. That is the unique aspect of this initiative. If we get to know you, we will follow you and help you until you resolve your homelessness.
If the camp is cleared out and people are cleared out in this area, is that going to create a barrier for you to be able to reach them?
We have outreach and engagement teams throughout the community. It's not only in this area. Host covers the downtown area, however, our outreach and engagement staff covers the entire county, and we have the ability to follow people wherever they move.
How much is this program costing?
So we're not going to be able to share that until we actually get the results. And so I think it's going to be an ongoing kind of progress report because, again, as Darylyn has said, there are going to be folks who may be reluctant. Our job in creating this by name list is we are going to track that person until we get them stabilized and housed. And that's all dependent upon their barriers and their willingness to be housed. And so that is the goal of this pilot, is that anybody who is outside of the arch that has been assessed through this process, we are going to be tracking and following those specific individuals. And as soon as we have some clarity around the amount of resources that has been given, we'll be releasing that through different progress reports to the community.
Do you know how long the pilot is planned on continuing and exactly when it started?
So providing details around the time frame could be a detriment to us being able to engage out there. When you're talking about the vulnerable community, and especially those who are unsheltered, we're walking into their homes, we're walking into their living rooms, we're walking into where they find their private sacred space. And so we want to be honoring that. So I can tell you that the outreach and engagement has already occurred, is continuing to incur, and over the next few weeks, this pilot program will continue.
So is there kind of like an ideal timeline that you want to follow with an individual? Say like a week after we make that initial contact, we want to have this done. 2 weeks from now, we want them sheltered. 3 weeks from that, it's something like that that you can walk us through.
Yeah, so however long and whatever it takes to get them housed. That's the bottom line. We are going to, again, a by name list, a housing plan for everybody that's on that by name list. And then whatever it takes, however long it takes, is the goal for the providers and for our community.
Is there anything that you guys are going to do in the meantime to address the concerns of just the visibility of the homeless in other parts of town?
So with this being the guided path pilot, we are going to see if this pilot, how effective it is, and again, if it's fully resourced the way it should be, for it to be at scale. So this is the first step in doing that.
Couple more or one more?
Do you think that this will pull people from other areas of town into central Austin as they hear about this resource? And do you know if there is a shortage of beds right now, or how many more you would need to effectively house the people you're targeting?
So, one, I don't think it's going to bring in folks from other areas. When you're talking with the unsheltered population, once they kind of set down roots and they found a place to be safe, and they usually tend to create community amongst themselves around safety and security, they usually stay where they're at, which is a great thing with our outreach workers, with hosts and integral care, and others who are doing the constant engagement in those areas and helping to build trust. And as our community begins to be really focused on housing first, and having a housing plan as soon as we engage somebody, and every time we meet them, even if we know them, we say, where are we at with our housing plan? What's the next step? How can I help you? That is going to continue to be our focus. I think as the Arch continues to do its work around being housing focused, when people begin to hear that this is the place where you're going to have a path to housing, the Arch will be able to provide that program for those who are willing to be able to do that.
Okay, last one. All right, thanks for.
Is there any Spanish sound available?
No. But we can sort. Oh, beg your pardon. We can sort something out. Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, just out of the 100 that you have talked to, the biggest things that you've heard, the challenges, the things that you'll focus on when you continue reaching out to more people.
So when we were out there talking with folks, we got a lot of varied reasons of why people are out there. It's a lot about community and about feeling safe there. It's also about trust, and so trusting that coming in will lead to something when maybe it hasn't in the past. And so I really feel like that there's a feeling of momentum going forward, that even with just talking with the folks outside and talking about that we've got resources, we're going to get you into housing, we're going to help you, that we're moving forward, that it feels like a foot forward. So we got really an incredibly positive response when we talked with the folks. They were grateful for us being out there talking with them, asking them what's going on and what they needed, and they're at this point very willing to work with us.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you.